Good morning, I'm Maiki Oreta, and you're watching Business 360, where we break down the numbers, connect the dots, and give you the developments and the insights you need to navigate, adapt, and lead. Let's dive right in. The government rolls out its 20 peso rice program across Metro Manila and nearby provinces, promising relief for consumers amid elevated food prices. The Supreme Court strikes down a 25-year mining ban in Occidental Mindoro, ruling that local ordinances cannot override national law. Newly elected party list representatives Laila de Lima and Diokno joined the House prosecution panel in the impeachment case against Vice President Sara Duterte. And a major deal takes off. Qatar signs a $200 billion agreement with the United States to purchase over 160 Boeing aircraft for Qatar Airways. Let's take a look at how global markets moved overnight. U.S. stocks closed mixed as investors awaited fresh economic data after a strong start to the week, driven by a softer inflation print and a tariff truce between the United States and China. Traders continued to monitor trade developments while President Donald Trump toured the Gulf states, securing $600 billion in investment commitments from Saudi Arabia. U.S. tech stocks got a boost after the Trump administration announced a series of artificial intelligence-related deals in the Middle East on Tuesday.
So while the China trade deal is a positive, and you've seen that reaction from the markets, I'd caution investors that overall tariff rates are still roughly 15%, inclusive of the UK and the China deals. We still don't know if those tariffs could go up if deals were to fall apart. But even at the level given this recent announcement, you still have tariffs dramatically higher than where they were last year. So that's still going to be a drag on the economy. It's going to cause higher inflation. And so there's still going to be negative effects from it. It's just that investors are excited that the worst case scenario is off the table.
The Dow Jones Industrial Average slipped 0.2%, the S&P 500 a little higher by 0.1%, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq higher by 0.7%. Over in Europe, markets closed lower. London's FTSE 100 down by 0.2%, Germany's DAX and France's CAC 40 lower by about 0.5%. Now here at home, the government is expanding its 20 peso per kilo rice program, a flagship anti-inflation measure, to at least 32 Kadiwa stores and public markets across Metro Manila and nearby provinces. The rollout had been temporarily paused due to the midterm election aid ban. Agriculture Assistant Secretary Genevieve Guevara said the pilot run received strong public support, with consumers praising both the affordability and quality of the subsidized rice. The program is backed by 370,000 metric tons of allocated stocks and 5 billion pesos in funding, enough to sustain operations through December. Beyond short-term relief, the initiative is seen as part of the administration's broader push to tame food inflation, support local farmers, and strengthen social protection. Malacanang says that the program will continue regardless of political outcomes, calling it a core public service commitment. On another front, the Supreme Court strikes down local ordinances in Occidental Mindoro and Abra de Ilog that impose a 25-year ban on large-scale mining, calling them unconstitutional and in conflict with the national economic policy. In a unanimous decision written by Associate Justice Marvic Leonen, the High Court ruled that the local moratoria violate Republic Act 7942 or the Philippine Mining Act of 1995. The case was filed by Agusan Petroleum and Mineral Corporation, which said the bans blocked its mining rights under a government-approved financial or technical assistance agreement. The court stressed that local governments may exercise autonomy but cannot undermine national laws or strategic industries. It added that blanket bans on mining are legally void, though LGUs may still evaluate projects on a case-by-case basis. The ruling has wide implications for mining investments and resource-based industries, affirming that regulatory clarity and policy coherence are essential to attracting long-term capital. A new generation of Filipino investors is changing the game, younger, more digitally savvy, and looking for easier ways to grow their money. In response, BPI Securities has launched a new online trading platform aimed at making stock investing more accessible than ever. Eugene Kim has the details.
The trading landscape in the Philippines is changing. More Gen Z and millennial Filipinos are skipping traditional brokers and moving towards digital platforms to invest in the stock market. The Bank of the Philippine Islands, through its brokerage arm BPI Securities, has launched the newly revamped BPI Trade, a web and mobile-based platform built for the next generation of investors.
But in terms of target, our goal is, of course, to drive the growth of retail investors. Because online accounts is driving the total investor profile of the PSE, under the PSE. I think the growth from 2020 to 2023, in terms of total investors in the PSE, it's around 36%. But online account growth from 2020 versus 2023 is actually 63%.
From 100,000 users, mostly millennials and Gen X, BPI Trade aims to expand its user base to 300,000 in the next 2 to 3 years.
And we're still targeting to grow it more, especially with the help of our new fully online account opening feature, which will not only add, of course, new account openings, but will help integrate or entice more investors to join not just investing in stocks, but of course being financially literate and investing for the long term.
For investors dealing with larger capital, BPI Trade stresses its commitment to security, stability, and full regulatory compliance.
And so I guess in terms of competition, we know it's tough, but I think what we have and what the others don't have is in terms of the backing of the bank. So in terms of stability and security, you are assured that with BPI Trade, your investment, your money is going to be as safe as it comes. I mean, when it comes to stability, it's as stable as it comes.
As part of its roadmap, BPI Trade is set to roll out additional features this year, including mutual fund access, conditional order functions, and multi-asset trading tools. Trading on BPI Trade is currently limited to the Philippine Stock Exchange, but the company confirms it is exploring foreign market access as a future expansion step. The new BPI Trade website will be officially accessible to the public on May 28 with no minimum initial investment required. Eugene Kim, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
We're taking a quick break. Please stay with us as we dive deep into the numbers and the narratives that matter most. Your bottom line. Welcome back. Let's check on Asian markets this Thursday morning. Right now, the Nikkei 225 is in the red sharply, down by over 1%, down by 1.2%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index in the red, not down by as much, down by 0.3%. Shanghai's composite is just like the Hong Kong Hang Seng's index, down by about 0.3%. Now, Singapore's Straits Times Index is bucking the current downtrend in Asia. It's higher, but not by much, up by just 0.2%. Now, here at home, the Philippine Stock Exchange ended lower on Wednesday, snapping out of a 2-day climb as investors took profits amid caution over corporate earnings. The main gauge fell 0.2% to close at 65.52. Now, analysts say that the market may remain choppy in the near term as investors await more first quarter results and monitor global cues, including dollar strength and interest rate expectations. Now, as of 10:13 this morning, the main gauge is in the red. It is actually a sea of red that we're looking at right now. The PSE index is down by 1% to 64.88. Broader all shares index down as well, down by 0.7% to 37.72. As for the sub indices, all are in negative territory, with the holding firms and property counters and mining and oil counter down the most, down by about 1%. Now, taking a look at the other market indicators, volume is at 625 million, while value is at 866 million pesos. Now, market breadth, though, is slightly positive. We've got 65 advancers and 60 decliners, while 38 stocks remain unchanged. Taking a look at the currency market now, the peso opens stronger at 55.80 to the greenback, higher from its previous close of 55.86. Now, to help us make sense of the market's post-election mood and what it signals for investors moving forward, we're joined by Manny Ocampo, the Senior Managing Director of Investment and Capital Corporation. He's been closely tracking market sentiment throughout this midterm election cycle, and today he joins us to talk about policy signals, sector strategy, and what investors should be watching in the weeks ahead. Hi, Manny. Good to have you with us.
Morning, Maiki. Great to be here.
Hi, Manny. Okay, the PSE Index just posted one of its strongest sessions this year, right after the midterm vote. How much of that rally was driven by Wall Street's reaction to President Trump's tariff pause, and how much of it was local, tied to the peaceful and credible election we had here at home?
Well, I'll say that maybe the market reacted more about it was a 2,000 point uptick in the Dow Jones Monday night when we closed. So when we opened, I think the market was really cheering that. I guess there was also very positive reactions to, the initial news that came out. People were seeing a balance, for example, of the votes coming out, particularly for the senators. I guess a lot of sectors were pleasantly surprised. I'll maybe put it that way on the initial outcome of the top 12 senators. So that definitely had some kind of a positive impact on the market as well, Mike.
Mm-hmm. Positive, but short-lived. We are in the red right now, back at the 6,400 level. What's the mood in the market now following the elections?
Sure. I think we're still, this is consistent with what's happening in the States. We're tracking U.S. equity movements also. So, we're back there to track what, we're back to tracking Trump. Maybe that would be the right way of putting it. What is he planning to do next? And people react to that, react to that kind of actions from President Trump more than any other things. No? We've also had a release of corporate earnings for first quarter. I'll have to say, having taken a look at things, the sectors that we expected to be strong were indeed strong. There were surprises on the downside, unfortunately, for a few names coming out. So that has maybe tempered optimism in market movements. Mikey.
Yeah, okay. Drilling further into that, who would you say surprised to the upside and who surprised to the downside?
Well, Mondenisin on the downside, clearly. We thought that they, would have figured out putting behind, a few things that they may have made mistakes on. So that continues, which is unfortunate. And we hope that they are able to fix things on their side fairly soon. On the upside, I think the banks, the banks continue to do pretty well. Mining companies, mind you, have performed quite well. I guess with movements on the upside on commodity prices of gold and nickel.
Mm-hmm. Stepping back a bit, going back to our midterm elections as the 20th Congress takes shape, and also tying that into our market. When it comes to foreign participation, historically we've attracted opportunistic hedge funds, not the long-term institutional money. Given the composition of the Senate and the House, do you think that this time around they'll have the skill sets and the willpower to make the economic changes we need to really boost our capital markets?
Well, there are some new names that we hope would champion economic reforms. Unfortunately, quite a few will remain very political on outlook. But that's par for the course. But with the addition of some names there, it may be good for the economic side of things, Mikey.
Okay.
We're
Yeah.
hoping that, sorry, I was going to say that we're hoping that maybe bills that got stuck with the previous Congress start to move forward. BIFITA, for example, is one of them. This rationalizes taxes on financial intermediation products and stuff. So, this is right now with the Senate. If that, with the new faces and all in Senate, we're hopeful that moves forward.
Taking a look at this list of Magic 12, Manny, who do you think here will champion, the causes we need to drive our markets?
Well, Mr. Aquino and Senator Aquino and I guess Senator Pangilinan should be front runners in that. They've always been known for being friendlier to business. So we hope that moves forward. Mr. Lacson, to be fair, has also been he's been quiet there on the sidelines in the past when he was senator, but he's pushed quite a few economic reform bills as well. Looking at the record.
Okay, let's focus on the economic legislative initiatives. What would you like to see, especially within the first 100 days, their first 100 days on the job?
Well, businesses always push for number one, the amendments to the Magna Carta for MSMEs. MSMEs being the acknowledged backbone, if you'd like, of the Philippine economy. The amendments would really, maybe push more credit to MSMEs, or maybe it's something that the BSP can push a little bit stronger with the banks to take a look at lending in more meaningful ways to the MSME sector. It's a sector that the banks may be less akin to lending to, because they're always playing it on the safe side. So we'll see. There are quite a number of MSMEs that would do well, but are just not being given the opportunity.
And what about the decrease in the stock transaction tax from 0.6% to 0.1%? That's a proposal. Are you hopeful that within their first 100 days on the job that we might see this proposal push forward?
Yes, that's the low-hanging fruit, and that's passed quite a bit. I think it's really just waiting for confirmation or even just the signature of the president. Now that the elections have been done, I guess they can put politics aside and move to the economics of things. The reduction in the stock transaction tax would definitely help the equity capital markets. That should provide. You're making you're taking down, or you're reducing the friction cost in trading, and that should spark some kind of volume activity in the market.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to help beef up volume. However, you mentioned that you wanted them to put politics aside and move on to economics. However, up ahead, we've got the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. Are you worried about this, that this will be the first focus, the first thing on the agenda? And it might be time consuming. How worried are you about the focus and the attention our lawmakers are putting into this instead of the economic policies, crafting the economic policies and pushing them forward?
They can look at that. That's par for the course in the Philippines. But what we hope will not happen is that the economics are not forgotten. It will be a pity, for them to focus on the impeachment. As we all know, life has to go on the other side. Not everybody's there, and maybe people are saying that this is. I think you had guessed earlier in a previous show in BNC, but it may be a foregone conclusion already. So just get on with it, but don't forget the economics.
Right. Going back to the economics and that landscape, we saw a mixed picture of corporate earnings in the first half of the year. Add to that low inflation, lackluster GDP growth. Q1 GDP came in at 5.4%, below expectations. Growth was expected to be much higher. Apart from that, we've got rate cuts on the table by the BSP. What's your outlook for the second half, and what kind of an economic situation scenario are you looking at?
I think we're still optimistic now, given everything that has happened. If Mr. Trump doesn't controls himself, so we take away that uncertainty, for example, from the external. I think BSP, for example, will be looking at a rate cut in June, and then maybe at least one more before the year ends. So that should be positive as far as maybe helping the economy, move forward, and hopefully you'll have a GDP recovery towards the second half of the year. That's there also. With rates going down, definitely a few sectors in the capital markets should benefit. My favorite asset class would be REITs, and a rate cut would again be a boost to that particular asset.
Yeah, Manny, speaking of those rate cuts, you said you expect 2 more rate cuts this second half of the year. Would that be 25 basis points each? What's your take on that?
Yes, I think BSP will, maybe they will not do a preemptive 50 basis point rate cut at any given time. Governor Remolona will be very controlled and see how he'll do it in controlled cuts.
All right, so 2 25 basis point rate cuts for the balance of the year. Do you think with that, the PSE index, we are at 64.90 right now. Do you think that with those rate cuts, those 225 basis point rate cuts, do you think that we'll be able to breach 7,000? Of course, the Trump risk thing, for as long as he doesn't do anything that makes global markets go crazy. Do you think that with these rate cuts by the BSP, do you think that'll be enough to bring us to the 7,000 level?
Sure, and at 7,000, we're really aligning valuations with our neighbors. So it's not, it's not a big thing. We're still playing catch up relative to our neighbors. Yes, we were very optimistic that 7,000 or 68 to 7,000 is a possible range that the index will go towards fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm. What's your base case for the PSE index in the second half of the year?
Maybe if we settle at above 6,700, 6,800, then we should be on path to 7,000.
Okay, all right.
We're a few points away from that, a few hundred points away from that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
Okay.
going to say second quarter we're a little bit more optimistic. Yeah.
All right. For the people very much invested in fixed income, what would you like to say to them to entice them to get back into the equity market so that we could see some more volume and some more action and some more upside?
Sure. When rates come down, then you lose a bit of return on fixed income. That'll become a little bit more pronounced, as you go along the way, especially with rate cut expectations. So it may be time to start looking at, the blue chip issues or the blue chip stocks that maybe you felt were expensive in the past. Now would be the time to start accumulating. Slow accumulation. Don't be too aggressive. Don't sell the whole fixed income portfolio yet. But start taking a look at at the blue chips again. REITs, sorry, I'm a big fan of REITs, but REITs give you a very good play on capital appreciation and fixed income returns. That's an asset class one should really be invested in at this point in time as well.
All right. Thank you so much, Manny Ocampo, Senior Managing Director for Investment and Capital Corporation. That's all the time we have, but always good to hear your thoughts.
Thank you, Maiki.
We're taking a short break. Business 360 will be right back. Despite being in detention and awaiting trial at the International Criminal Court, former President Rodrigo Duterte has won the mayoralty race in Davao City. His victory raises a host of legal and political questions, including whether he can actually assume office. Veteran election lawyer Romlo Macalintal weighed in on this very issue.
Hindi niya pwedeng gampanan ng kanyang katungkulan habang siya ay under detention. Sapagkat magkakaroon ng parang discrimination naman yan. What about the other prisoners na maaari mga businessman o ibang mga trabaho din na gusto lang i-perform ang kanilang functions. At anyway, hindi naman daw maapektuhan yung boto ng taong bayan dahil sa nung ibinoto sila ng taong bayan ay alam ng taong bayan na sila ay nakakulong, na sila ay hindi maaari makapag-function, but the people took the risk of electing them. At any rate, sa kanya namang kung saan nakabilanggo man siya doon, nakadetain, nandun naman ang kanyang vice mayor na under the law ay po pwedeng siya muna ang maging successor in the meantime na hindi siya makapag-function as regular mayor ng Davao City.
The House prosecution panel in the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte is adding heavyweights to its lineup. ML party list representative Laila De Lima has accepted the invitation to join the prosecution team. In a statement, De Lima said that she sees this as part of her duty to uphold accountability, no matter the personalities involved. Human rights lawyer Diokno of Akbayan party list is also joining the panel. Akbayan called this a new chapter in its push for justice and transparency in governance. The House prosecution team remains confident ahead of the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. Manila 3rd District Representative Joel Chua says he's optimistic about their chances, even with the recent changes in the Senate, which will serve as the impeachment court. He described Senators Laila De Lima and Diokno as credible additions to the prosecution panel, bringing expertise and depth to the case.
Talagang maganda rin na makasama namin sila dahil unang-una, nakita naman po natin hindi po ito mga ordinaryong mga kongresista, mga dekampanilyang abogado to, yung kanilang mga karanasan when it comes to legal matters, talagang mabibigat din naman. Senator Laila De Lima, si Attorney Diokno, si Attorney Miro Kimbo, ay talaga ng mga may karanasan, may credentials at masasabi natin na talaga namang batak na pagdating sa trial.
Just days after the midterm elections, Malacanang issues a firm warning to newly elected officials, vowing to push back against politicians it deems to be obstructionists.
Mga obstructionist na maaaring pansarili lamang ang kanilang ilalaban. Kung gagawa man sila ng fake news, kung ano-ano mang mga balita o ano-ano mang mga statement na maaari makasira sa gobyerno ng walang basihan, ito po ay ating tutugunan kagad.
Despite not all ally candidates from the President's Alianza ticket making it into the Magic 12, President Marcos says he remains satisfied with the overall outcome. And while the administration is warning against what it calls political grandstanding, it also clarifies the president welcomes constructive and legitimate opposition.
Ang trabaho po nila ay para sa bayan, para sa taong bayan, hindi para sa ilang interes. So anumang kulay yan, wini-welcome po talaga ng Pangulo na makaisa ang bawat leaders natin para tugunan kung ano man ang problema at magbigyang solusyon ang pangangailangan ng mga kababayan natin.
Palace Press Officer Claire Castro is dismissing claims that the midterm election results reflected a public protest vote over the arrest of former President Rodrigo Duterte and his transfer to the International Criminal Court in The Hague. She issued this statement to address the issue directly.
Kung sino man po ang nagpapakalat ng mga ganyang klaseng mensahe ay hindi na po dapat nating pinapansin at hindi dapat nating pinaniniwalaan. Unang-una po, kung totoo po na ito ay protesta dahil sa pag-aresto kay dating Pangulong Duterte, di na po dapat nanalo. Itong si Senator Kiko Pangilinan, hindi na rin po dapat nakasama sa Magic 12. Si Senator Tito Soto, si Senator Lacson, at saka si Senator Erwin Tulfo. Pasinin po natin yung mga hindi nakasama sa Magic 12 pero nasa 14, 15, yan din po ay mga alyansa at sila po ay naniniwala patungkol po dun sa ginawa po ng pamahalaan sa pag-surrender kay dating Pangulong Duterte sa ICC.
A call for leadership at the country's top anti-cybercrime agency. Internet watchdog ScamWatch Pilipinas is urging the DICT to immediately appoint a new head for the Cybercrime Investigation and Coordinating Center, or CICC. Co-founder Josel de Guzman warns that without an executive director, crucial services for scam victims could face disruption. He says that the agency has been leaderless for over a month. The vacuum comes after DICT Secretary Henry Aguda accepted the courtesy resignation of then CICC head Alexander Ramos as part of a department-wide reorganization initiated by Aguda following his appointment. The shakeup marks a transition period for the DICT after former Secretary Ivan John Uy stepped down in March. Stakeholders say a new CICC head is urgent, with cyber threats and online scams still on the rise. On another front, San Miguel Corporation, led by Ramon Ang, reported a first quarter net income of 43.4 billion pesos. That's more than 4 times higher than the 8.9 billion pesos posted a year ago, boosted mainly by a one-time gain from the partial sale of its power assets and foreign exchange gains. In a social media post, Ang said that the company remains focused on expanding its business while supporting national development. The Philippines is falling behind in its East Asian neighbors' education. Now, with a staggering number of young Filipinos still unable to read age-appropriate text, the World Bank warns that without urgent investments in human capital and modernized learning, the country risks being left out of the region's digital and economic future. Education, the report says, no longer is just a social issue, it's a competitiveness issue as well. Ivy Reyes has the details.
If the Philippines would not focus on human capital, it would further fall behind ASEAN countries who put a prime on innovative education. According to World Bank Director for Philippines, Myanmar, and Brunei, in the last 50 years, innovation, especially in education, is a potent drive in East Asia. But the Philippines ranks second among East Asian countries with the most students who cannot read age-appropriate text. While the number of enrolled students in the basic level increased, the number of employees with tertiary education falls. That is why for INITEC, the regional center of the Southeast Asian Ministers of Education Organization in the Philippines,
resilience is no longer optional. It is a foundational attribute for learners navigating rapid technological change, economic shifts, and increasing mobility across ASEAN.
To add, the World Bank notes that high-ranking countries like South Korea, Singapore, and Turkey all integrate innovative technologies in their education systems. This strategy proves effective because rapid digitalization will soon affect the labor force in more ways than one. And for the Philippines to catch up, we need to upscale students' foundational skills and focus on basic reading, math, science, socio-emotional skills, and invest in licensing technologies and startups to aid existing research centers. Meanwhile, for the World Bank, there is also a need for more stringent teacher selection processes and trainings to ensure educators are proficient in artificial intelligence and other tech-related skills. Latest data from the Philippine Statistics Authority reports that 70.8%, or 7 in 10 individuals aged 20 to 24, are functionally literate. This means that of the 85 million individuals in this age group, only 60.17 million can read and comprehend. For their part, the Department of Education explained that they went for higher comprehension criteria in 2024, proving that these numbers do not reflect their efforts to curb illiteracy. Ivy Reyes, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
Cebu's tourism and leisure sector gets a boost as New Star Resort announces a major expansion designed to cater to the growing demand for high-end hospitality in the Visayas region. The project includes the launch of the New Star Hotel, a new luxury property that aims to attract international travelers and position Cebu as a strategic hub for business and leisure tourism. G. Baroga has the details.
If you thought Cebu's luxury game was already strong, think again. New Star Resort turns 3, and they're celebrating with bold expansion plans that are raising the bar for high-end hospitality in the Philippines. The crown jewel, the newly launched New Star Hotel, an ultra-luxe edition that promises next-level pampering, complete with a modern butler service that's making a stylish comeback.
We refer to a new era that heralds an elevated level of luxury hospitality in Cebu. We're introducing, for example, the return of butler service, although this time in a more contemporary, modern context. Our butlers for New Star were specially trained by a company called Hale-Brown Hospitality, which is a well-respected name worldwide that trains individuals, particularly for the luxury hotel segment.
With over 200 rooms, including a jaw-dropping 670 square meter villa, New Star Hotel is all about curated experiences. Think intuitive service, sleek design, and indulgence with a local touch. And there's more on the horizon. The soon-to-open Sky Deck, the second phase of the leisure park, and a world-class performing arts theater. And then there's the mall at New Star, a luxury retail destination in its own right.
More than 80% of our tenant mix are first in Cebu. And a big chunk of that are luxury brands. Right, and that's very intentional. So we made sure, because we wanted to cement our positioning as a luxury mall.
From concept to construction, Adolfo says they collaborated with tenants early, some even opening their flagship stores here. Foodies are in for a treat too. El Primo welcomes guests with its curated 3-course experience. Plus, globally acclaimed Mott 32 is part of New Star's culinary lineup, serving award-winning Chinese cuisine, inventive cocktails, and stunning ambience.
New Star Resort is a landmark destination in itself, so we're very happy and proud to bring all this tenant mix into the property, and most of which are first in Cebu, right? So it brings pride and honor to Cebu.
But beyond the glitz, New Star is creating real impact, especially for Cebu's young professionals.
We also take into consideration our impact socially in terms of creation of jobs, in terms of the transfer of skills, knowledge, expertise, particularly to the young crop of employees that we selected and hired.
To celebrate its 3rd anniversary, New Star pulled out all the stops with Beneath the Twilight, a grand gala night featuring the performances of Ryan Cayabyab's singers, headed by the national artist for music himself, as well as OPM icon Basil Valdez.
Now that New Star Resort and Casino is hitting its 3rd year, you can bet on more exciting upgrades and ultra-luxury spots for everyone to enjoy. G. Baraga, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
We're taking a quick break. Business 360 will be right back. A major aerospace deal is taking shape in the Gulf as the United States and Qatar finalize a landmark agreement for the purchase of 160 Boeing jets for Qatar Airways. U.S. President Donald Trump announced the deal during his visit to Doha, saying it's valued at $200 billion, one of the largest commercial aviation agreements in recent years. The deal is expected to boost American manufacturing jobs while further strengthening U.S.-Qatar trade ties. For emerging markets like the Philippines, the agreement also signals a potential uptick in global aircraft demand, an indicator of improved trade flows, route expansions, and a recovering aviation sector across Asia.
You're also working with us very closely with respect to negotiating a deal with Iran, which is the far friendlier course that you would see. I mean, we have two courses. There's only two courses. There aren't 3 or 4 or 5. There's 2. There's a friendly and a non-friendly. And the non-friendly is a violent course, and I don't want that. I'll say it up front. I don't want that. But they have to get moving. I hope the Iranian leaders understand that what you're doing, and really what you're doing for them, is a big favor. Your prime minister, and your great leader, right here on my left, has been helping so much, and they respect them and they're listening to them, but they have to get moving, and we both understand that.
Meanwhile, the Qatari Prime Minister addressed reports of a multi-million-dollar aircraft being offered for U.S. presidential use, stressing that the jet is part of a government-to-government transaction and not a personal gift to President Trump. The proposal, which involves a specially configured Boeing plane as a potential new Air Force One, is currently under review by both sides. Controversy swirls in Washington as U.S. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. faces tough questions in his first congressional testimony. Kennedy defended massive budget cuts and thousands of job losses at the U.S. Department of Health, moves he says are part of a leaner, more efficient approach. But lawmakers slammed his response to a measles outbreak now spanning 11 states with over 1,000 reported cases, criticizing his hesitant endorsement of vaccines despite growing public health risks.
That I want my questions answered on, are you freezing and withholding funding that Congress appropriated in 2025 for life-saving NIH research?
You have the power of the purse here.
Thank you.
Know that.
Thank you for reiterating that, but I think that I'm not sure the administration really has internalized that, particularly Mr. Vogt hasn't internalized that when he says that we can in fact, impound money. The money is there. The 2024 budget includes the funding for the NIH. Will you commit to spending the money that is in 2024 in that budget?
As I said, ranking member, if you appropriate the money, I'm going to spend that money.
The money has been appropriated. So the answer to that is if you're not willing to accept the funds that have been lawfully voted by members of the House and Senate on the money for the National Institutes of Health. Well, I'm going to hold you to your word that that funding is there. It should be transferred from 24 to 25, and you've cut already $20 billion. Let's get that money back.
The controversy underscores a larger debate. How much should governments cut health spending in the name of efficiency, especially as infectious diseases reemerge and global mobility rises? Now, Pope Leo XIV, the first U.S.-born pontiff, issues his strongest call yet for global peace, offering the Vatican as a mediator in ongoing conflicts. Speaking to members of the Eastern Catholic churches, many from war-torn regions like Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, and Ukraine, the Pope condemned violence and persecution, particularly against religious minorities. He said that the Holy See is ready to bring warring sides to the table to rebuild trust, restore dignity, and help communities find hope through dialogue. With millions of Filipinos working or living in conflict-hit areas overseas, the Pope's message of peace resonates strongly and underscores the Vatican's role in championing diplomatic solutions on the global stage. And that's it for Business 360. I'm Maiki Oreta. Thank you for joining us. Keep it here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel.